Okay, it seems to be working now. So, Hare Krishna. Let's get started and we will resume where we had left our mantra 6, just to conclude that last bit of mantra 6, that how all this knowledge is important for us. And then we shall move on to mantra 7, maybe today itself, if we cover that on time. There will be a lot more to discuss on it. So that's all from Srila Prabhupada ji. Let's do the Mangala Charan and we shall resume back. Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnana-Jana-Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuda Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatha Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripau Sindhubhya cha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshitarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev Maharaj ki jai, jai jai Shri Radhesha. Hare Krishna. So, very briefly, what we have already seen in Shri Īśopaniṣad, that we started Om Purnamada Purnamidam. Lord is Purn, we are Purn. And the very first principle in Shri Īśopaniṣad in Mantra 1, Īśāvasyam, everything belongs to Ishvara. Second mantra, if we live in harmony with that Īśāvasyam principle, that how much in harmony we will live. So we will not have any stress, any anxiety at all. And if we will not live in this harmony, then mantra 3 explains that what will happen. And most of us, we know when we try to become the proprietor, the owner of everything and everybody, then how much distress we get in our life. Then moving on to the next segment, which is from mantra 4 to mantra 8. In mantra 4, it says that we need the spiritual vision. Going forward, it says in mantra 4 and 5, we need the spiritual vision because it's very hard to understand a spiritual load with our material senses. And we have already discussed that our senses are imperfect. The senses are imperfect. Because they are imperfect, we get into illusion. Because we get into illusion, we make mistakes. And because we make mistakes, sometimes we do bad things just to cover up those mistakes. So if you remember that in 4 different principles, so the very first thing, because our senses are imperfect, we get into illusion. Because of that illusion, we make mistakes. And sometimes we do bad things to cover up those mistakes. So because of all that imperfect senses, we can't really see and realize Lord, and we need a spiritual vision. So that's 4 and 5. In 6, and how do we start? We start with mantra 6, and the essence is oneness. Essence is not only that I will care for my children, I will care for neighbors' children, I will care for the children of the nation, I will care for the international children, I will care for each and every, not only human being, not only living being, but also non-living things. I will care for everything. Now, of course, there has to be a balance there. Like Mahatma Gandhi ji had an incident where he had a scholarship granted to him. So somebody has said, okay, I give this scholarship to you and you can give this to any of your disciples, because Gandhiji has a lot of followers. And Gandhiji had 2 candidates at that time under him. And that's where the wisdom comes in. He chose one candidate over other, even though the other candidate was much more eligible, a little bit more eligible. Both were eligible, but second one was a bit more eligible, but he gave the scholarship to the first one. And when somebody asked that, why did you give it to the first one, not to the second one? How did you differentiate? Gandhiji said, because the second one is my son. I don't want anyone else to feel that I'm doing any partiality with somebody else and I'm giving it to my son. But there is a shortcoming there, that not only that second one was Gandhiji's son, second one was a bit more eligible. So if you just ignore that he's your son, then you should have sent that person. And that got proven later when the first one, he took the scholarship, he went out for studies, and he left his studies in between and he came back. And then obviously the first choice didn't go through, so the second choice had it. But still Gandhiji didn't send his son there, and he sent the third one in the queue. So Gandhiji had a lot more influence, like what in this particular context, that what people will think. And of course, how it ended up that son of Gandhiji's went away from Gandhiji. That even when I was eligible, even when your closers were saying, you didn't listen to them and you sent the first one, and you could see the first one was a failure. You could have given me the chance, but you didn't, just thinking about others. And the reason is that that oneness wasn't there, that you could just drop that idea that that person is my son and just could able to see. So not doing partiality, but not even doing impartiality. So if you can keep that balance, which is very hard to do, of course, if any one of us were there in Gandhiji's shoes, we might have done similar thing, don't know. But from this verse, Srila Prabhupada said that if you consider this analogy, this example, which Srila Prabhupada has given somewhere else, but if we're able to develop that spiritual vision, then that spiritual vision will give us so peace, because we are not going to become jealous from anyone. And we saw this verse, yes to Sarvani. So Sarvani is everyone. Atmani, this is the word we say, Anupashyati. This is looking everything from the eyes, from the vision of Shastras. So when we see everything, Sarva Bhuteshu Chatmanam. When we see Sarva Bhuta, everything we will see with that vision of Shastras, what the Shastras say. And Ajayji asked a very good question, that what do we consider as Shastras? So we, coming from Sanatan Dharma, we consider Vedas and all the offshoots of Vedas as Shastras. So this verse in chapter 6 says his parts and parcels. So if we, and this is what Krishna said to Arjun in Bhagavad Gita as well, that if we consider everyone as part and parcel of me, then you're not killing anyone here. They all are my part and parcel anyways. So from here, just this slide, and then we will jump off to Radhesham Prabhuji's slides. So this one, where in the purpose to explain this, Srila Prabhupada ji said that it's very hard to reach to that level of oneness, which this mantra 6 explains, that where you can able to see equipoise. And in Bhagavad Gita, there is a verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. So that oneness is where you are Brahman realized, which is Brahma Bhuta. So once we reach to that level, then Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, that Atma will be prasann. Well, Atma is anyways prasann, because Atma is a Satchitananda, has always been Satchitananda. Like Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, that nobody can kill, nothing could happen to the soul. So Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati. It doesn't get happy, it doesn't get miserable, nothing happens to it. Once we reach to the level of Brahman realized. Now, you might think that why are we still so stressed and anxiety? Because that spiritual soul inside got the covering of this material body, and we start thinking and behaving and acting on the platform of this material body, where we consider our biological father, biological mother as our mother and father. But when we are, like what Srila Prabhupada ji was, when these Uttam Adhikaris, the pure devotees, when they reach to that Brahma Bhuta, that Brahman realization, and of course even further, then they see everyone on an equal level. Then they don't partial towards one or other. They are equal with everyone. So Kanishta, somebody who has just joined, who is still junior. Madhyam, who has joined, who has experience, but is not there yet. Uttam, who has reached to the level of Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, and at the end, Bhagwan realization. So that's where we were. And if we jump straight to what Radhesham Prabhuji said, and for the completeness, I know I have mentioned Prabhuji's name number of times. This is Radhesham Prabhuji, and Radhesham Prabhuji has been to UK. He travels a lot. He's from Pune. His origin is in, I think, South India somewhere. He mentioned it once, but he lives in Pune. He's the president of Pune Temple. He has been doing a lot of servicing. So he's the one who put these slides together. So I'm borrowing his slide and his wisdom to share. So mantra 6 to 8, vision of Mahabhagavat. Now Mahabhagavat is a word we have seen it before, but we will see it again. Mahabhagavat is for someone, again, if we take the example of Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttam, then Uttam Adhikari considered as Mahabhagavat. So Bhagavat, so could relate to Bhagwan, could relate to Bhagavad Gita, could relate to Bhagavatam. Mahabhagavat, who has understood all that wisdom, who has reached to that level. And it says once, and there is another verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna said that somebody who reach to my level, my planet, never falls down, never ever. So Mahabhagavat is considered as that level, which is like when Gautam Buddha said, I'm awake now. So there's no way, all those liberated people, if they have reached to the level of liberation, then there is no way they're going to fall down. And if they fall down, that means they didn't reach to that level of liberation. So mantra 6, 7, and 8, it says that, so Prabhuji recommended that these levels where we say that, where we see everyone similar on the same platform is at the level of Mahabhagavat. So if we consider ourselves neophyte, Kanishta Adhikari or Madhyam Adhikari, then it's not really for us. But of course, the scriptures are giving their understanding, not only Shri Īśopaniṣad, but Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam as well, that once we will reach to that level, then it's so peaceful because we're going to see everybody everywhere. Now, if we think about it, what makes us anxious? When our children are out there playing, we are worried about them because they are our children. When we are out somewhere, we think that something might happen to us because we think ourselves as this body, associated with body. But if we will transcendent, go beyond this body, consider ourselves soul, everybody else as soul, considers oneness between our soul and other soul, then, which means the true understanding that all the souls coming up part and parcel of Krishna, then we will be worried about everyone and we will be happy for everyone. So of course, there are many examples where people are worried about everyone. And there are not only in our scriptures, but there are other scriptures also have these examples where their monks, they were just worried about everyone they will see. Srila Prabhupada obviously used to cry for others. He didn't even know. He would just see them and cry that why these people are entangled in such a material world. So that vision is for Mahabharata. Now the connection he explains is we have seen mantra 5 where the qualities of the Lord is given, and mantra 6 describes that who has the capacity to factually appreciate the Lord, seeing him in all things. So we understand the Lord is there, we understand Lord's energies are everywhere. Now level 6, we have started looking, feeling and appreciating those energies of the Lord. And that's how the connection going on. So in mantra 5, we saw 4 and 5 that what are the qualities of the Lord. And those qualities are exhibited by the energies. So the sun is there, sun's quality, light and heat. And now we know light and heat is available to us. It's quite miserable out there because sun is not there. But in a usual good sunny day, we can. So that's how we can feel the energy of the Lord everywhere. So once we need to know, if we know about it, then only we can reach the next level of appreciation. If we don't even know somebody's qualities, then we wouldn't even appreciate that. And that's where we are. So the main theme explains is a spiritually advanced devotee sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord. And to develop this vision, one should follow footsteps of such great souls. This is the additional part where we mention about disciple succession. So we just discuss it today and we leave it. But if we are in regular touch, we say, well, we don't see it. If somebody would say, well, I don't see this, I don't see everything in relation to Krishna, then that's where the association comes in. We ask the question, like I asked the question many years back from one of the Maharaji, that if I'm an engineering consultant, then how would I see my engineering work when I'm in the office as connected to the Lord? Then the answer was something on the lines that if you're able to do something, then you need to appreciate that Lord has given you that wisdom and that knowledge. And if you're going to get money out of it, you need to know that it's not because you got the knowledge, it's because Krishna has given you the knowledge. So how you can employ this money and the Lakshmi you get, not only for your survival, but how you can serve others with that. Because the input, the knowledge to do that job is coming from Krishna. So the output from that, those efforts, those skills, the knowledge, which is Lakshmi, has to go back to the source, which is the Lord. So if you keep that understanding, that not only that you will have the appreciation, you will not have the false ego, but you will also become humble. And this will really, really help to develop your quality as well. Because now you're not working for yourself, you're working for Krishna. You don't want people to pick you up making mistakes, even though everybody makes mistakes, because you know that through you, Krishna is working and Krishna doesn't make mistakes. So, and of course, this happened in Bhagavatam. There is a mention that it was the same Arjun who fought the fight of, the big battle of Mahabharata and many more, while Krishna was around. But same Arjun, same weapons were useless when he was bringing Krishna's wives back. The normal villagers tied him with the tree and left him there and took all the wives away. Same Arjun. And Arjun gives this realization when he comes back and discuss with Yudhishthir, because Yudhishthir asked the questions. Very, very wise dialogues. He asked, Have you done this? You look very remorse. Have you done this, which means that we should not do any of those things. And then at the end, he said, have you failed a duty you were supposed to carry out? And then Arjun said, yes, I was given this duty to bring. And I always felt that it's because of me I was doing it. But now I realize it was the presence of Krishna which made me do all that. So we are just instruments in the hands of the Lord, whether we realize it or not. Of course, sometimes we realize it sooner, sometimes we realize it later. Then Prabhuji explains it further, Kanishta Madhyam Uttam, which we have seen. Now, this is the main thing here, developing spiritual vision. So we understood Kanishta Madhyam Uttam. We have been discussing that for last few weeks. I hope this is clear. Kanishta, neophyte, very new. Madhyam, somewhere in the middle. Uttam, pure soul now, pure, fully realized, liberated, pure devotees. And we consider as our acharyas and Guru Maharaj as Uttamadhikari. But now, how this knowledge, this wisdom is useful to us? How? Developing spiritual vision. Because this understanding, this categorization should help us in developing spiritual vision. And Prabhuji explains that there is a danger developing that spiritual vision. We need to avoid something. And we briefly touched base. If we try to categorize everyone in these three categories, then we could fall into Madhyam Adhikari, and we might see low, or might see down on Kanishta. But that's not the spiritual vision. That is the material vision. So, because the Shastra says, like we have seen the references, that the Madhyam Adhikari will feel very mercifully will help. And of course, will ignore those who he cannot deal with. Uttam Adhikari can deal with everyone, but Madhyam Adhikari will ignore those he cannot deal with. And those who are ignorant will feel mercy for them, will not feel jealous, envy, or thinking, oh, they are new, they don't know what they're doing. No. So these kind of dangers are there which we need to avoid. And then what to accept. And this is what we call Vedic wisdom. Not only that the statement is there and we take it and that's it. That's where the disciple succession comes in. Not that we just read one thing and we just make our own mental speculation that, okay, this means this, so I'm going to do this. And I will give you an example of a friend of mine who is also very spiritually inclined. And he's a very highly qualified professional. He's a doctor. But we always do spiritual discussions. And he has his own understanding of Bhagavad Gita. And he understands that in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, and he doesn't have any guru as such. He has just taken the Bhagavad Gita from the market and just started reading it. So his understanding, or one of the principles of his understanding, is that Krishna says that do not have more than you required. And if you think about it, that's right. Krishna does say something similar, that you don't need to be greedy, right? But that doesn't mean that we will not work hard, whatever we're doing, whether we go to business, whether we are in politics, whether we are engineers, doctors. Krishna didn't say that you should not work hard to get promotion, to get to the next level. If you are in business, open a new business line. Now, what happens with this friend? Somebody from the bank called him, and let's say if he has 10,000 pounds in his bank, called him and said, well, you have 10,000 pounds in your bank and they are not doing anything. Why don't you put them in your saving account or put the FD, and you will get 7% or 8% returns. And in some countries it happens. And this friend of mine thought about it and he asked me. I said, of course, if this money is not doing anywhere else and you're just moving within your bank account, you're not like going in the share market, Not that share market is abandoned in Krishna consciousness. Of course, not the daily one, which will give you the spiritual anxiety or material anxiety. But yeah, if you just move there, you will get extra money. And then you can use that money wherever you want. Then he said, but Krishna said, don't be greedy. I said, well, you're not greedy. You can use that extra money in the service of the Lord. You can donate it to the temple if you like. You can buy Bhagavad Gita and you can distribute Bhagavad Gita. If you really want, you can do the Prashadam Seva for devotees. There's a lot of good you can do with that extra money you're going to get from the bank. And his understanding is still the same. And as far as I know, I think he hasn't done anything. Now, it's okay if he hasn't done it, but the reason he hasn't done it is because his understanding is Krishna is saying that don't be greedy, and which means that which the extra money which is coming to him, he's shutting his doors to them. But this is the thing which Srila Prabhupada said, that when somebody gave money to Swami Vivekananda said, I don't want to touch money. But Srila Prabhupada said, I don't mind, because I will utilize all that Lakshmi in the service of Vishnu. Because the best use of Lakshmi is that Lakshmi is always on the lotus feet of Vishnu. So I will use that in the service of the Lord. And that's what Srila Prabhupada did. Open so many temples. Even now, December is coming. In December, we do the marathon, the book marathons. And in book marathons, not only that we go out on the road and distribute books, we also ask people who can to donate the Lakshmi to sponsor Bhagavad Gita. Not only in this country, but those far remote villages where people cannot afford. And we get it, and we just distribute those. So this is the real true understanding of that spiritual vision, where when we make decisions in our life. So this example is like day-to-day life, we have it. And you might have something similar. And that's why these gatherings are so important, that we ask from each other. We have the whole disciple succession, where we ask each other, we open our heart. When we will do the nectar of devotion, then it says there are few things we exchange between. There are 6 things we exchange within devotees congregation. So if you have a devotee friends, and one of them is to exchange our mind. What's in our mind? And different devotees, they ask their gurus, their senior Vaishnavas, they're following God brothers, God sisters, or anyone in the devotee congregation. Of course, after a while, you just don't go and open your heart to anyone with kurta and dhoti and tilak. But of course, once you have that relationship going, and that's where the spiritual vision comes in. So very briefly, we have seen the Kanishta is the lowest stage. Now, lowest stage means just understanding of where we are in the lowest stage so we can move forward. Not that we will consider somebody in Kanishta as the lowest. Oh, he's on the lowest stage. No, this is the danger we need to avoid. So we need to appreciate the downside of it. Goes to temple, nowhere else. So this person believe in the temple and the deities, but nowhere else. Can't ascertain others' position. Others' position, devotees' positions. So this Kanishta would not have the appreciation of association. Will follow the routine. And you will see a lot of us, we do. Now, Krishna consciousness is one of those things which really have given the true meaning behind the scriptures. Read the Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavatam, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, most of the time, if you see ordinary Hindus, we don't even read anything. A lot of my friends, I would say, don't even have Bhagavad Gita at home. So if they don't have Bhagavad Gita, that's evident they don't read it. But still, they have a routine. They get up in the morning, they do 2, 3, 5, 6 pujas, the artis, and that's it. Now, whether those artis making any difference in their life or not, and I have done it for many years, but in Krishna consciousness, we realize that nothing wrong in those rites and rituals, but we need to be conscious that whether those artis, those rites, are they developing or enhancing our consciousness? Are they making us better bhakta, better devotee or not? If not, then maybe we need to modify something. Maybe we need to modify. So not that we need to question that, not that we need to revolt anyone who is doing it or look down, but of course we need to ask ourselves if those rites and rituals doing. But when we read the books, when we discuss with others, definitely, because then we realize that how the wisdom comes in. Wisdom comes in our decision making, when we make the decision in our day-to-day life. And not only we realize it, people around us, they also realize. Quarrels. So this person, Kanishta, quarrels a bit because that person is too attached to the rites and rituals rather than attached to the devotees. And then materialistic devotees. So these could be considered as materialistic because they're too attached to the material things. But still the appreciation is there that they have started that journey of spiritual vision. But yes, one day we'll reach there. So Madhyamadhikari is the second stage. And there we have seen these four. So this is the categorization. We can understand that, okay, this person now has understanding of the Supreme Lord and he loves and adores. This is what we call Krishna Prema. So gopis used to do things not because they used to love it, because Krishna used to love it. As parents, we do a lot of things not because we like it, but because we know our kids like it, right? Maybe we will cook something. Maybe we will buy something. Maybe we will watch something because kids like it. Imagine if all of us will do things which Krishna wants us to do for Krishna Prema. If we have that love we have for our material relationship, if we have with our spiritual father, then not only we will see the oneness, but we will be so, so happy. Devotees, of course, we will make friendship with devotees. So this is the very first step from neophyte that we start ascertaining the position of devotees. We realize their appreciation of. Innocent tries to awaken dormant love, of course. Neophyte, atheist, we will avoid. So being Madhyamadhikari, we cannot play with the atheist. They could be bad for us because we are not that fully developed. But if somebody is innocent, we can try to awaken their love because we have seen the beauty of it. So we will. Now moving on to Uttam from Madhyam, that's where even atheist could come and take the bath in the nectar of Krishna Prema. And His Holiness Jayapataka Swamiji Guru Maharaj, Radhanath Swamiji Maharaj, Bhakti Tirth Swamiji Maharaj, Bhakti Charu Swamiji Maharaj. There are many of those great souls. They are on the level of Uttam Adhikari, and the way they speak, the way they carry out their day-to-day activities, we can feel where they are and where we need to be. Sees everything in relation to the Lord. There's no exception at all. They don't discriminate at all. So if Gandhiji was there, he wouldn't discriminate somebody is my child or not, because we'll see everyone same. Whoever is capable will go for it. So atheist or theist doesn't really matter. He doesn't. Brahmin and dog, this is the example given in Bhagavad Gita. Not this is the aim and objective, kind of. Not that we look for it, but of course this will happen automatically. We look for Krishna Prema, but Krishna Prema will come when we will reach to that level. But gradually it happens. Then it says, sees in terms of using and misusing independence. That who is using the independence, who is misusing the independence, which we all have. We all say, are we just the instruments in hands of Krishna? Does that mean we don't have our independence? No, we do have our independence. Whether we want to serve the Lord or not, whether we want to serve the Lord or whether we want to serve Maya, we have the independence in our hands. We can do it. Whether we want to go and watch movie, watch cricket, watch football match, or we will go to the temple, listen to Bhagavatam, read Bhagavad Gita, we do have the choice. Of course, being in the material life, material things are much easier to do. Similarly, if we are in the temple, spiritual things are relatively easier to do because of the ambience, because of the circumstances where we are. And that's why we say if we are in the association of devotees, then spiritual things are easier for us to do anyways. So no misled by material bodies, because of course Uttam Adhikari can have that spiritual vision. See the spiritual spark. See the spiritual spark in everyone. Madhyamadhikari sees innocent and atheist as different, and will see innocent people and will try to awaken the dormant love there, but ignore atheist. But here, Uttamadhikari will see that spiritual spark in everyone. And Uttamadhikari will try to awaken dormant love even in atheist. So that's where Uttamadhikari is. There is no exception for Uttamadhikari. So if we understand these three, then this is where I said everything comes to application. So far we understood the difference, and we have briefly discussed that how this understanding is useful for us on day-to-day basis. But this is where Srila Prabhupada ji and then further Radheshyam Prabhuji emphasize that once we develop that spiritual vision, there are a few things we need to avoid. We don't fall into the shortcomings, because a lot of times we do. So it says we should not become imitators of Uttamadhikari. And unfortunately, this happens. So we know, so somebody will say that, oh, I'm your servant. Because so Rupa Goswami ji, Sanatan Goswami ji, they left everything, and they just used to they used to consider themselves as everyone's servants. They say, oh, and not only them, there are many more acharyas who used to say that, oh, you are devotees. So because they can't see neophyte, madhyam, or uttam, they will see everyone as the devotee of the Lord, and they will say, oh, you are the devotee of the Lord, let me serve you, right? Then if imagine neophyte or madhyamadhikari will try to imitate. Now there is a difference. We can get inspired by them, that wow, what a great quality, and what if we will develop this as well. But there is a difference between getting inspired, getting motivated, and try to imitate. Under no circumstances we should try to imitate. Imitation is condemned in scriptures as mithyachari, as phalgu vairagya. That and these words are there in Upanishads and in Purans as well. Mithyachari, somebody who is imitating. Phalgu, which is false, which is not there, like a lot of sadhus. It says there is no need to wear the dress of sadhu. But of course, if you want to become sadhu, no problem in that either. So Gautam Buddha said middle path, right? You don't have to become grahastha, and you don't have to become a sannyasi. But of course, if you want to become a grahastha, you could still be Krishna consciousness. Or if you want to become a sadhu, you could still be Krishna conscious. But a lot of time, because grahastha, they go and they pay obeisances and respects to sadhus, a lot of people, even though they are not ready to become sadhus, that's not their natural inclination. They would still go and take the outer external covering of a sadhu, which is condemned. Naturally, if it comes to you, no problem. But you should not do because you have a different agenda. Oh, I don't need to work, people will come and pay me, because these days sadhus are earning a lot. Why not just open a temple and become a sadhu there? No, that's what we call imitators of Uttamadhikari. This will happen naturally. And a lot of times we just start imitating others, which we should not. Flaunting the sense of oneness, which means we have not reached to the level of oneness, but we flaunt. We just try to pretend that we are. We don't. So we can say the Shastras, so Shri Īśopaniṣad Mantra 6 says we need to be on that, but are we at that? We need to be honest with us. No, we are not on that. I am not on that. But yes, this is what Shastra says that we should. This is what Bhagavad Gita says, that a liberated person should have that equipose vision, see everyone on the same level. A Brahman, a dog, a Chandal, an elephant, everyone with the equal. We should. But no, sorry, I have not reached to that level yet. So that honesty needs to be there. Behave on bodily platform. This is something that if somebody is Uttam Adhikari, will never behave on bodily platform, which means, what does that mean, bodily platform? Which means that if the two people will come, one is from China, one from Africa, one from Russia, one from Ukraine, one from London, one from America, one is rich, one is poor, one is black, one is yellow, one is brown, that person will not have any differentiation based on caste, creed, color, how much wealth, who got. No, we'll treat everyone same. But a lot of time, those who try to imitate, initially we feel like they are on that level, but very soon we realize they are just imitating. They are not. False philanthropy. This is when we start, if we have a lot of money, we start giving to the charity. But we know in our heart that it's there to massage our self-ego. That, oh, I have given so much. So Srila Prabhupada said that, well, somebody else who recorded it, that two people came to Srila Prabhupada and one was a devotee who introduced somebody else. Oh, Prabhupada, look at him. And actually, they were, the husband-wife came. So that one of the devotee introduced that, look at this is a great couple and they are so wealthy. And the wife said, oh, my husband, pointing towards the husband who was also there next to her, that, oh, my husband is such a philanthropist that he donates a lot of money. He has recently donated 10 lakh rupees. Then as soon as she said 10 lakh rupees, then the husband said it was actually 10.5 lakhs, not 10 lakhs. Then she said, oh, yes, sorry, not 10 lakhs, 10.5 lakhs, which means the person did that, but how much ego he had that he had to correct that it's not 10 lakhs, it was 10.5 lakhs. So we do need to understand that, not that it doesn't mean that we should not, but what it means that we should always be conscious that is this going to help our consciousness, or is this going to help our self-ego? Are we going to become more falsely proud just on ourselves, just by donating that? That's not going to do any good for us, not good for our self-ego. Of course, that money could be used for good help in the temple or in ashram, but not for our ego. But then politicians offering material gains. A lot of politicians, they give a lot of things at the time of elections. In America, mid-term elections are coming, and politicians, they give away so many free things. But again, not because they are at that level, but because they are pretending to be. A lot of politicians, they do it. No information of spiritual world. They don't know anything about it. They've just heard and they pretend to be. And not even now, at the time of Krishna, there is a mention that there was another king who said that I am Krishna. I am real Vasudev Krishna. Pondrak was his name. And so Pondrak, he got everything. He used to look a bit like Krishna. And he got all the 4 chins of Krishna and had the chakra with him as well, had the peacock feather in his hairs, and he started pretending as Krishna. And he sent a message to the real Krishna that you should stop pretending like me and you should give away your chakra. And Krishna said, when we will meet, I will give away my chakra on you. And this is what happened. When they both fought, Krishna killed Pondrak, who was false Krishna. So a lot of imitators are there, not only now, even in the scriptures. Motive, fame and reward. Of course, we have taken a lot of examples. Again, not criticizing anyone, but saying that downsides, we should always be careful if we are doing it. And of course, others could be doing as well. A lot of time people say how to realize who is a real guru. Well, we can see by these whether the person is imitating these or not. Right? And then another thing is not coming in disciple succession, right? So when we see, are you educated engineer? Are you qualified doctor? Or are you qualified CA, chartered accountant? And if you would say, yes, I am, say, from where? From which examination board? From which university? If you say, well, I just did it at home. One day I just felt that I am so good in engineering. I read all the engineering books. I read all the medical books or whichever field I am in. And I think I'm at that level now. Now, nobody is going to accept that person. It only happens in the disciple succession. Why? Because the knowledge is not one person's knowledge. Knowledge comes in the disciple succession. Right? Of course, there could be a Buddha, there could be a Krishna, right? But they are very, very, very rare. Rest of them, they are just the followers. So this is what we should avoid. We should not imitate anyone. A lot of imitation happens, a lot of happens. We should not. And we should always try to see if somebody else falls into disciples. Again, not to criticize, but just for our understanding. And what to accept. I say we need to accept, this is the word I said, anupashyate, the vision of the spiritual beings, the spiritual scriptures, which is follow previous acharyas. If we are in Oxford, Cambridge, we will learn from the teachers, right? And we need to clarify from the teachers. And we know by now why, because there are so many apparent contradictions. Like I gave you the example of my good friend. He just misunderstood something, and then he's not ready to do something which somebody else, like the bank, is asking him to do, or just a suggestion. There is nothing wrong in it at all. But that's where we need the devotee congregation. That's where we need others to come along and give us those directions. That's where the previous acharyas, that's where the Diksha Guru and the importance of Siksha Guru is there. So we need to follow disciple succession, commentary that do not contradict Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So there are 400, last time I read on Google, it says there are 400 different translations of Bhagavad Gita from different groups, different people. And there are many. I've seen that just one person who thought and he just created his own version. So some, of course, coming from like Swami Vivekananda ji, Paramahansa Yogananda ji, and Adi Shankaracharya ji's. They still belong to some sampradaya, but there are many others, they don't have any clue. But not only Bhagavad Gita stand alone. If you want to understand something in Bhagavad Gita, the whole context is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? And then because Bhagavad Gita is very concise, it's 700 verses. In Bhagavatam, there are 18,000 verses. A lot of details are given. So it's not that we just read in one. There should not be any contradiction in the wisdom between Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So to understand Bhagavad Gita will give us a small, clear picture. But when we will reach to the level of Srimad Bhagavatam, then those fundamental concepts, they get even more further elaborated. Same thing in Shri Īśopaniṣad, just one verse could confuse us. But when we will compare and contrast them with the knowledge given in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, then we understand the true meaning behind it. So believe in Supreme Personality of Godhead and His divine energy. So anupashyate, follow the scriptures and follow the spiritual beings, the acharyas. Consistent with Srila Vedvyas words, which is why I just said that we should not take something independent. We should see if what we try to understand, does it align with rest of the scriptures which Vedvyas ji has written. And that's why if we see Bhagavad Gita is part of Mahabharata, which is a part of Itihasa. If we see Shri Īśopaniṣad, it's part of Upanishad. If we see Bhagavatam, it's part of Purana, right? And apart from Vedas, from Vedas, three main things are Upanishad, Puran, and Itihasas. And we combine all three knowledge, and then we understand the true meaning behind it, which means it's not only contextual, just one bit. We see the overview, and it's very hard for one person to do it. But again, somebody like Srila Prabhupada ji, who concisely read so when he put the commentary, it's not his personal commentaries. He read 6 or 7 acharyas, and then he combined everyone's knowledge in one. So he never said that it's mine. There was a time he was reading his own commentaries, his own Bhagavatam. And a disciple of his asked that, Prabhupada ji, you wrote them and you are reading yourselves. And Prabhupada ji replied, no, I didn't. I didn't write them. Krishna wrote them. right? So like Ved-Vyas-ji had that knowledge, and through Ved-Vyas-ji, Ganesh-ji was writing. So there is a mention that Ganesh-ji was writing all that. But Ved-Vyas-ji was giving it, right? And somebody will say to Ganesh-ji that you wrote it. He said, well, yeah, maybe literally I wrote it, but it was actually Ved-Vyas-ji. And of course, from where Ved-Vyas-ji got it? Ved-Vyas-ji got it from Brahma. Where Brahma got it? Brahma said it, that I got it from Krishna. Chapter 4, first verse, well, first verse, second verse, and then the third verse, where Arjuna asks the question, then Krishna gives the answer. Bhagavad Gita I have given to many people in the past. It's not only you who have this knowledge been given. It's been given to many other people in the past. So disciple succession, if we see this, so it comes from, so this is a Gauriya history. Gauriya history is coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji, famously renowned as Gauriya, because he was his color was golden. From there, the word Gauriya comes in, and this is the history of that. So if you see, so Srila Prabhupada, his teacher Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakurji, his spiritual guru, that Gaur Kishore Babaji, and then his teacher Bhakti Vinod Thakurji, his teacher Jagannath Babaji, and then his teacher and his teacher. Then this is, I think, I'm trying to figure out, they're supposed to be, it could be Rupa Goswamiji, and this could be Ved-Vyas-ji. This is Ved-Vyas-ji, this is Narad-ji. Ved-Vyas-ji, so spiritual master, spiritual guru was Narad-ji. Narad-ji's father is Brahma-ji. So Narad-ji got everything from Brahma-ji, and he passed on to Ved-Vyas-ji, and then rest of the parampara follows. And then, of course, Brahma-ji got it from Krishna. Krishna himself is Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji. This is the disciple succession. So Anu Pashyati. Anu means to follow, and Pashyati means to observe. You follow by observing. That's why so beautiful names been given. Upnishad, Upvasa. You sit next to, so yesterday was the great Ekadashi. You sit next to the spiritual master. You eat less. Why? Because you will save time in cooking and eating. So you have more time for Krishna conscious activities, which could be to talk more about Krishna, to hear more about Krishna, to discuss a lot more about Krishna, right? And can do more chanting, can read Bhagavatam, can do a lot of those activities which you're supposed to. And another, if you see disciple succession, this is, if you have Bhagavad Gita from Srila Prabhupada, then right at the front, right at the end of introduction, right at the front we have introduction. I think right at the end of introduction, the name of all the spiritual teachers being given, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji is there, Madhvacharya is there. So they all are there, and they all come from Krishna, Brahma. So number one, Krishna, then Brahmaji, and then Naradji, Ved-Vyasji, and then Madhvacharya, and then continue. So that's why it's, we say Brahma, Madhava, Gauriya Sampradaya. That's the name of this Sampradaya, which ISKCON is part of. So if we follow this disciple succession, then for me, there was no need to record the message of the Vedas, because people in earlier ages were more intelligent and had sharpened memories. So there are two incidents which happened. One, where people used to live longer and they had such a great memory. Teacher would say once and disciples, students will recite and they will remember. So there was no point writing anything. But the second one was when a lot of invaders came to India and they started burning scriptures. So a lot of scriptures were burned. The great Takshila library was burned. Then what the spiritual teachers started doing? They said to their students that, would you give me Guru Dakshina? And the students say, sure. What would you like? And the teacher said, all that knowledge I have given to you, take a part of it and just memorize it. It's written, of course, this is the time much later. So all that is written, but it's getting burnt. And one day will come that hardly anything will be left. So how about you remember part of it? And then similarly, if he had like 4, this is what Ved Vyaji also did. He had 4 disciples. He gave one Veda to each of his students, who gave part of it to each of his students. And that's how their own Sampradaya started. So this is what used to happen. They could follow the instructions simply by hearing, once from the mouth of a bona fide teacher. So this is where we conclude. And this is the verse where I was saying Brahma Bhuta. This is not only 1854, this is a reference is also given in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, verse 30. Canto 4, chapter 30, verse 20. And this is why I say we put all the Vedic scriptures together and try to understand with a wider sense. So I hope we concluded mantra 6 today to start mantra 7 next week. I hope it made more sense how we can utilize this wisdom in our day-to-day life. So thank you so much for your association, and I look forward for your association next time. With that, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Gurudev Maharaj ki jai. Jai Shri Ram.